All right, folks, welcome back. A little after 10 a.m. We're picking up work on S-278 and actually relating to cannabis. We are gonna go, we have a strike all amendment that council provided us. Council, you care to join us at the table? Good to see you. So we got a couple of other points of discussions to work through this morning. There was that municipal zoning piece on the outdoor to indoor language. There was a question also about clarifying language or more clarity on the landlord tenant provisions in and around lighted and what that means within the landscape of how people consume cannabis. And then also there was in the repeal section, yesterday's copy real quick, and it was section 29 in repeals D by removing the cannabis delivery permit as repealed language. If that had a ripple effect into other aspects of law, and that was just a question that was flagged by someone. So, yes, correct.
That last thing you were just talking about, that was the part with the adding the outdoor or the indoor.
No,
Oh, okay.
no, this is a different thing that got flagged about whether or not this would wind up putting like cannabis and hemp having an intersecting.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
And
okay.
it was just more like a mechanics question that just clarification on. I thought it was a good flag by somebody who was tracking the bill.
Okay, so it didn't happen, we were discussing, it was like offline.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was like hey, what would happen if this part happens?
Okay.
I thought it was a worthy flag. And now I'm just also taking a look at that section with the indoor cultivator. That is section 11. So I guess we can start with council and she can just update this on strike all amendment that's now currently presenting. How are you?
Morning, Sophie Zadatny for the Office of Legislative Counsel. I believe you have copies of the strike all amendment, so I didn't know if you wanted me to put it on the screen or just, we could just go through the paper copy.
Preferences? I mean, I got paper, but if people want, we could.
Yeah, we don't need the screen. Okay. So the strike all amendment on page 3, I'm just going to go through what the changes were and they should all be highlighted. Page 3 at the bottom, line 18, just the reader assistance heading was amended because before there were 2 pilot programs. And then page 5, right in the middle of the page, lines 12 and 13. This is the change that the board shall issue not more than 5 permits for public events and 5 permits for private events. So that was a change from the 10 and 10 that you discussed yesterday. Section 6 at the top of page 7, line 3, is deleted, and that was the delivery permit section. And then just quickly, section 7 through 10, the changes there, so pages 7, 8, and 9, those are all just to conform to the fact that we've only got the delivery. We don't have the delivery permits, we only have the event permit. So those are all just conforming changes. Section 10A at the bottom of page 9, there was no change on that, but I did want to flag that you'll see later on, that's the section where the effective date was changed from July 1 of 2026 to January 1 of 2027. So I just wanted to flag that for you as we move through.
Yes.
Then on page 11, as you noted, I think the committee on section 11, we're going to come back to that. So I'm not going to say anything on that right now. Section 13 at the bottom of page 13, again, no changes on that, but just wanted to flag that there was a request for a change to delay the implementation of that for 1 year, and you'll see that later on. And then these are to do with the integrated licenses. So page 16 at the very bottom, line 20, and the top of page 17, again, those were just technical corrections. There are now going to be 6 licenses, not 7, because the integrated license is going away. And then it just adds in an underline under the conjunction on line 1 at the top of page 17, because that wasn't underlined before. So just an editing issue. And then jumping ahead to page 20, section 23 is deleted. That was the Cannabis Business Development Fund. And that was deleted as discussed yesterday. There had been a companion provision in the version that came out of Senate Economic Development that would have provided additional funding into that fund, and that was taken out by Senate Appropriations. So yesterday, you heard that including tier 1 cultivators, manufacturers, et cetera, would just dilute the remaining funds that are in that particular fund. So that section has been deleted. And then jumping ahead, no changes, the next few pages. Going to section 29 at the bottom of page 29. The word repeals is highlighted in line 13, and that was only because it deleted subsection D, which was the repeal of the delivery permit pilot program. And then I did want to flag, just circling back to what the chair just raised, subdivision, subsection B on line 15, where it says repeal of 7 VSA section 862 cannabis establishment chapter not applicable to hemp or therapeutic use of cannabis. That is actually the name of that section. So that section is called section 862, and the title of that section is not applicable to hemp or therapeutic use of cannabis. So it's simply just repeating the title of that section. It's not getting into hemp, it's just listing the name of that section. And then finally, section 30, I'm not touching on because, again, I think the committee's going to talk about that right now. Page 31 adds in, again, those couple of effective dates. So section 10A is going to take effect January 1, 2027. And then it adds in cannabis establishment fee schedule, because that's the particular section. And then section 13 will take effect on July 1 of 2027. And again, that was the change in the biennial licensing for employees. And they added language about the board having the ability to issue longer product registrations for longer than 1 year. That was the strike all from yesterday.
Thank you. So I guess I'll open it up to the table. We can start going through the components that we flagged for further discussion. Who wants to start where? Rep. Coppin.
Start with section 30 on page 32, line 2, the rental agreements, cannabis restrictions. On line 7, where the agreement may prohibit the use of lighted cannabis or cannabis products within the rental premises. My concern is just that the language is, I don't know if lighted would cover vapes or products that are meant to be inhaled.
So I think at this point, there's no definition of lighted cannabis. The analogous, yesterday you heard from Tucker that this was using the same language that deals with lighted tobacco. But again, there's no definition of lighted tobacco. So I think if the committee wants a more clearly defined definition, then that's language you may want to add.
Like something like lighted cannabis or cannabis products that are meant to be inhaled. That would cover, in my mind, that would cover vapes. It would cover the dabs that don't actually light.
Waters Evans.
I'm Rep. Coffin, I'm curious why
Why?
we would not want the vaping, but we would be okay with like edible or like a cooked item or something like.
Well, edible products, you're not having the vapors, the fumes, the smoke. Okay. Whereas the, so for them, that's used inside we're talking about use inside the home. So even, vaping in the home is still producing some kind of smoke, some kind of residue. So if the landlord doesn't want you using lighted cannabis in the home, just like if they wouldn't want you vaping in the home, it's the same thing. So it's a matter of the air quality, where the edibles don't change air quality at all in the home, don't affect the paint on the walls, don't affect the premises at all. So that's where I'm just trying to make it clear so that
Yeah.
people don't claim a loophole.
I guess I respectfully don't agree that a vape, like a vape thing is the same as like lighting the flower on fire and smoking it. Like,
It's the smoke residue and the odors that permeate into carpeting, permeate into other parts of the house. That's what I'm looking at. It's not about a fire hazard.
yeah, I'm not sure, just we're discussing, are we discussing right now?
I mean, you saw
Yeah.
it that I got Hango, then it was.
I don't know, if I agree with Rep. Coffin that the vaping is something that remains in the air for an extended period of time, or I guess I would need to see some like evidence that it's like actually doing so. I know that there can be an odor sometimes, but it's different than like a smoke that's sticking to stuff. I don't know, it seems a little,
I'm gonna jump in and ask a clarifying question real
Yeah.
quick. Are you concerned more about like less about odor, more about like property condition?
Property condition and what it could do to the premises over time. It's not, and I believe that the landlord should have that right. Because landlords tell you they don't want vaping in their homes either for cigarette smokers. It's the same air quality that you would have on an airplane where they don't want you using an e-cigarette.
And Hango, then I got Mary Catherine, then I got Morgan. I'm sorry, Kate, I'm sorry, Eugene, and Morgan.
Okay, so I think I understand what Phil is saying, and this is anecdotal firsthand evidence from living in an apartment building here in Montpelier. The entire apartment building smells like cannabis, regardless of whether somebody is lighting a joint or using a vape. And vapor is a water product, and it does seep into paint, drywall, woodwork. And if I were a landlord, and it also, can leave a sticky residue. If I were a landlord, I would not want this, particularly like in my apartment, it's a furnished apartment, on the furnishings or on the walls, because then you have to repaint frequently. I think in my case, it's people using in the hallways, and it just comes right in under the door. The whole building smells of cannabis. And so that is a separate problem, because that's intruding on people's personal space if they're not users of the product. And it would be the same thing with cigarettes as well, tobacco cigarettes, that if you're not a smoker, it's secondhand smoke or secondhand vape. So that's all I have to say about it, is I think this is a reasonable request.
Repstone?
I understand. I just think we need to, I was just gonna ask you about the language, because with the vapes, it's a process of evaporation, not combustion. And like the liquid is being heated, but it's not, I'm just asking you. like for help with the language on that, because it is a different type of system.
Yeah, I would probably talk to Pepper about it. I have absolutely zero knowledge of anything to do with this, so I am not knowledgeable enough to tell you what appropriate language would
If we
be.
included vape, like no vaping inside, it's not, you're not lighting anything, like it's heating. But you're not lighting, so what language would we use to capture that if we went that route? It would not be what's being proposed in the language right now. It's a totally different mechanism It is.
Is the,
chemically.
is the intent to include vapes?
Just toying around with the idea at the
Yes,
table, but I'm
yes.
like, the language here isn't capturing it, 'cause it's a different.
So. Right, just like there's no definition of lighted products, there's no, I mean, we make distinctions in our rules between products intended for inhalation, products that are intended for oral ingestion. So, I mean. I think if the intent is to include vapes, I would say lighted tobacco products or products intended for inhalation, inhaled products. But that's clear to me, whether it's clear to a landlord, or whether it's consistent with other areas of landlord tenant law is an issue we don't. But it's clear to me, I mean, we make that distinction, and a lot of other cannabis boards make that distinction with respect to products intended for inhalation versus products intended for ingestion or transdermal. But does that help you on?
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess I'd be curious if the landlord tenant law around tobacco reads the same for vaping products. Like, is it mirrored?
I took a look at that. I didn't see anything specifically on that, so I think that's just something landlords can put into individual agreements, but I didn't see anything specifically on lighted tobacco as being an issue in landlord tenant agreements. I looked through that section of the law.
Yeah, I guess my question would be like, would a vaped tobacco product, nicotine product, excuse me, tobacco alternative, whatever we call it these days, falls under the same.
I see 7 VSA, it says Vermont defines a tobacco substitute as any electronic or battery powered device designed to deliver nicotine or other substances through the inhalation of vapor, which includes e-cigarettes, vapes, and electronic nicotine delivery systems. So that
Yeah,
goes
my
to-
question is more is housing though, like, how does it? Is that in landlord's tenant law? Or a vaped or inhaled, I got it lined up here. So I think that's something that could be understood.
And I can certainly take a look at that, let you know.
Thank you. Okay, well, we flagged that for more information. Rep Nugent?
I guess I would just ditto my understanding based on a quick Google search to verify, but is that there's no HVAC system that can adequately filter out vapor or smoke, which is why these things are allowed to be prohibited inside of apartment buildings. With people who are in, especially people with heart conditions and kids can get impacted by that.
Okay. You know, and I mean, with this, it's like one of my sort of benchmark approaches is always consistency, right? Like, so if we're talking landlord tenant law and we're talking about these vehicles for consumption, delivery for influence, I think it would be wise for us to understand what's being done on the nicotine side while we take a look at the THC side. Because the apparatuses themselves are almost identical with how they're engineered. So I got Morgan, then Hank.
Yeah, just to speak directly to what you just said, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I understand the consistency piece, so maybe that tells us we need to address tobacco in that regard as well. But having been a former landlord, no longer on full disclosure, I would not want those products being utilized in any place that I had to rent out to anybody. Because when I see smoke, when somebody exhales one of those products, it tells me there's something going in the air and it's going to land somewhere in those premises. And having had to have cleaned up damage, I had somebody that violated and smoked and had cleaned, that was a lot of paint and a lot of cleaning. I kept their deposit, but it was more than the deposit, unfortunately, to get it back. And so I think we do need to look at that as it does have destructive property potential. And it'd be it's similar, not a great analogy, but no pets. If you decide you don't want pets, find your places, yeah, you're the owner of that place. You should have some rights in that regard to do just what Rep. Coffin's talking about. So I'm with him.
Right on.
Rep. Hango?
I just looked up on the Vermont Department of Health website for some help with property. Yeah. Sorry, property precautions when writing a lease, and they refer back to HUD, which is a federal program. The HUD rule doesn't currently apply to e-cigarettes or other electronic smoking devices. However, these products can be included in a housing property for any type of property. And to include them, you would define smoking as inhaling, exhaling, breathing, or carrying any lighted or heated cigar, cigarette, or other tobacco or similar lighted or heated product in any manner or form. So it seems that the Department of Health is suggesting that you can write these things into your lease. And they can extend from individual living units to common areas in the building and to outdoor areas if you would so desire.
That's HUD.
No, that's Vermont
That's
Department of
Vermont
Health.
HUD guidance.
HUD does not restrict e-cigarettes or any other electronic means at this time.
Okay.
But it is allowable to include them. That's because HUD is a very specific
Yes.
program.
Yeah, no, and I just I got the willies
Yeah.
when I heard HUD, because I mean, they're getting involved with that, very precise. Yeah.
And actually, that terminology is smoking vape free, if we want to be really broad and non-specific.
Interesting. Okay. Again, I'm curious to see what the current housing law says about tobacco products. Is that?
I did look it up. And now it is gone, but I believe that the current law is that you can include in an individual lease that landlords are allowed to include vape products as something that is fair along with smoking, but it's not like. Yeah, so it's not like our law, but it's a law that they can make that law or that specification in a lease. They want.
Yes.
Yes. I feel like I'm with you on as far as it just aligning tobacco and cannabis use in this case, as far as whatever is allowed in a property. I'm fine with that.
Okay, we'll see what council minds on that one. Rep. Hango, you had another hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Vermont law, landlords have the right to prohibit electronic vaping in all indoor areas, including individual apartments and common areas through lease agreements.
Okay, well, we'll
And hopefully council will
we'll get council
corroborate that.
correct. All right, cool. So we got that one moving. That one's in the hopper. Next up, what do we want to do? Section 11. We can talk about that indoor cultivator language that popped up yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Since I wasn't here, remind me what that is.
Oof, what's the best way to frame this? There was some concern, if you go to page 12, the strike all, oh, no, I'm sorry, not the strike all, I'm working, I got yesterday's. Yeah, I got
It's
it.
page 12 on.
It is still
Yeah.
page 12?
I mean, it starts on page 13, but the specific, specific language is on page 12,
Gotcha.
middle of page.
I did have the right one, I marked it up already with the right pen, I'm confusing myself. So if you go down to page 12, line 12, that indoor cultivation, A,
What's the issue with it?
if an outdoor cultivator switches their license to indoor cultivator, it could bypass some of the nuisance regulations and could inadvertently reinitiate problems that we've been trying to deal with for years.
You don't want you to be indoors to do an indoor cultivating.
Yeah,
Sort of has to be
Okay.
covered.
not even covered, just have lights on it.
That's
Not
Yeah,
even,
and
sorry.
Rep Waters Evans.
I just remembered that Red Pingo was not here for that discussion
Yes.
yesterday. So Chair Pepper said that they can't make people use lights to grow the cannabis wherever it's located, so it's more of like a setback / license thing. So if you have an outdoor cultivator license and then you just pay the extra and you get an indoor cultivator license, you can still, the setup can be exactly the same as an outdoor cultivator.
Please, sir.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, James Pepper, Chair of the Board, I'll stop saying that
If you identify yourself sufficiently after the art of time here, sir.
Yeah, okay, so in this exact section of the law, you tried to reduce the ability for outdoor cultivators to grow in dense residential neighborhoods. You did that a couple of years ago. And so you gave towns the authority to set setbacks for outdoor cultivation. So they have to be, you know, at least 50 feet from a property line. The idea was to try and prevent odor from drifting to neighbors. Well, if you were to pass this language where you're removing indoor cultivators from any sort of public nuisance conditions on their license that a town could place on, you could have an outdoor cultivator that's subject to these setbacks and can't operate in a densely packed residential neighborhood, just convert their license to indoor, and all of a sudden the setbacks don't apply. And they could continue operating the exact same way as they were. Now you're also removing the ability of the town to do anything about or to really condition their license. So this potentially just reopens the same issue that you've been trying to deal with for years and years. But, you know, this is a policy choice for this committee to decide. It's actually very appropriate for the GovOps committee to be dealing with this. This was not dealt with in the Senate. The GovOps committee, this was.
Understood, sir. Representative Hango with a hand.
I feel like we went through this and we need to preserve what we intended to do then. It's not really our job to.
Well, it is kind of our job.
No, what I was gonna say,
Sorry.
it's not really our job in this bill to undo the
Yeah.
municipality's authority
In boards.
and board.
Yes.
So how do we rectify that?
I mean,
What is the solution?
if I may be so bold to
Mhm.
present a
I would like,
potential option, I think just striking A.
so that would that council, would that in effect disallow outdoor cultivators to procure an indoor cultivator license in the future?
It wouldn't preclude them from doing that, but it would remove the incentive to do it.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Incentive that
Okay,
we just outlined.
And what if, this was probably for the chair of the CCP, what if then in the future, an indoor cultivator, an outdoor cultivator did procure an indoor license, would we need more guardrails on what an indoor license actually covers? And so they couldn't be allowed to just operate as an indoor licensee with just a canopy over them or whatever it is they're doing now?
We have that authority and rule currently. What this does, what I think by striking A, you were just saying that towns can also condition an indoor cultivation license with respect to public nuisances, whether that's
Okay.
lights or odor or sound, probably. HVAC systems. Or something like that.
Okay, that's good, because I think that was our intent back when we,
If memory serves.
yes. Okay, so yes, thank you. All three of you.
The committee, let's open this up to a little bit of table talk right now with that, but I guess like I put the proposal on the table to strike that. Language A, line 12.
Um,
Okay, I guess why don't we go for favorable thumbs for striking?
So, would
Okay.
you tell me which one again, though?
A, page 12.
Yep.
Line 12.
I don't have an A. You're looking at advanced, which is on page 14. Oh. So you're striking that.
On the newest page 12.
Line 12.
I put up.
Okay, favorable thumbs. That looks like unanimous, they have favorable thumbs for striking A indoor public goods. Okay. And then I am doing punch list accurately. We are gonna head back. This was a conversation we had yesterday. With the removal. Sheet. On section 29, and it was. This draft, I believe. But it was the language on D7 BSA, section 9.3, cannabis delivery tournament repeal. And there was a question around a ripple effect or a potential ripple effect that how it intersects with other statute. And it's a little nuanced, so I was gonna actually ask Chair Pepper if maybe enlighten us a little bit on this question.
Section 29.
Yesterday.
That's what I referenced before.
Line 13.
Page 29, lines 15 and 16, where it would repeal 7 VSA, section 862, and it says cannabis establishment chapter not applicable to hemp or therapeutic use of cannabis. The not applicable to hemp or therapeutic use of cannabis is the name of that section 862.
I'm sorry, I referenced the wrong section. Apologies.
This was a request by the Cannabis Control Board to repeal this section of law. And this section of law is a vestige of the 2020 cannabis bill that created the tax and regulated system. At that time, there was a different agency that was in charge of the medical program. It was Department of Public Safety. There was a different agency and they had rules governing that program. And there was a different agency in charge of regulating hemp. That was the Agency of Agriculture, and they had rules governing that program. So when the 2020 cannabis bill was passed, this section was included to say those two programs are operating. This new section of law only deals with cannabis, doesn't deal with the Agency of Agriculture's hemp program, and it doesn't deal with the medical program. Subsequent to that 2020 bill, in 2022, this committee and the legislature gave us authority over certain types of hemp products, synthetic products, products that have higher amounts of THC, so they're not really hemp anymore. And that's in the very next section of law, 7 VSA 862A. And so we've written a rule about hemp products. I think most people in the hemp industry appreciate that rule, they like it. But as long as this section of law stands, there is a very strong legal argument to make that that rule is unconstitutional, or unlawful, I should say, because, well, these two provisions are just in conflict with one another. You know, you say we have no authority over hemp, we don't have any authority over hemp, but you gave us the authority over certain types of hemp. So how does that, resolving that, deleting this resolves that conflict? And same with the medical program. Medical program has now shifted under the Cannabis Control Board's authorization. We have our own rules about the medical program. They cross-reference rules about the adult use program. So again, it doesn't make sense to say that none of the, statutory authority in Title VII should apply to the medical program when it now does. So this is truly just a housekeeping measure. It doesn't regulate hemp like cannabis. We don't have that authorization, only have authorization over certain categories of hemp products. This just makes sure that that rule over that category of hemp products can stand, withstand a legal challenge.
Okay. Representative Hang over the hand.
Thank you, and I'm sorry again for not being present for the discussion yesterday. So how would this intersect with the miscellaneous agriculture bill that we just weighed in on that talks about hemp and jurisdiction over hemp and the CCB taking control of that?
So if this were to stand, then it would create that same conflict over the new hemp authority.
Okay.
So, regardless of whether that bill passes, this is a conflict with existing law, including actually the very next section of law, 862A. And then when you add more authority over hemp to the Cannabis Control Board, then this extends the conflict over the new authorities.
Two striking bubbles. So how does that get fixed, I guess?
It's helpful. I just put the two sections up on the screen. So this is looking to repeal that section 862. And then 862A is the one that's in conflict.
Excuse me, counsel, if the miscellaneous ag bill were to pass, would that be in that new language be in 862A also, because it would be hemp over 0.4? Or are you not familiar with that?
Yes, I'm not familiar with the,
Maybe I'll ask CCB. Do you know the answer to that?
Question.
Would, if the miscellaneous ag bill with the hemp language pass, would it be in that section 862A? It would also include hemp with THC over 0.4.
You in the miscellaneous ag bill have given us broad authority over hemp. It's not
It
going
would
to
be
be an
all
extension of 862A.
Oh.
It
Okay.
will be further down in the chapters.
Okay.
But then you really need to get rid of that 862 because it's, again, those two sections already are in direct conflict with one another. Then if you had more authority over hemp at the board, then you really have a problem with 862.
Okay, great. And the Senate Econ Development did not talk about this at all.
No, this really is, to me, this is just a housekeeping bill. I know that there's been some concerns raised by other stakeholders. If they're, that's appropriate. I can work with them outside of this, but to me, this is purely a housekeeping bill to make sure that conflict right there is.
Thank you. Repeal 862.
Which is what? That sounds right.
Right, that's what
Yep.
it says on line 15.
Correct. That is how we are in 21 this morning is with that. Right?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Rep. Boyden, did you have a comment?
To leave it.
Yeah, leaving it as is, understanding it's doing what it's intended to do.
Yep.
That was a very nuanced short series of words with a ripple effect and impacts. So I appreciate the clarification. I think, God, I've had my head in this policy for 7, 8 years and it's still sometimes. Okay, so we have an understanding that that is fine as it sits. We're gonna have a little bit more information come to us on that landlord tenant piece. We addressed that indoor outdoor municipal zoning component by being agreeable to strike A, line 12 on page 12. So right now, we're just holding on that first piece of information, correct? Cool. So, council, do you have any idea how long it would take to suss that out?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, very quickly. Yeah.
Thank you. So what I'll do is I will call a 15 minutes, okay? Okay, 15-minute timeout. We'll make it an even 17 minutes. We will return at 11:05.